I'm Jenny Rod I'm Jenny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and Magazine and publisher of On Purpose Woman Magazine. I'm talking with Joanne Young Elliott about her article in the May-June issue of On Purpose Woman Magazine. Joanne, thanks for chatting with me and thanks for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity and for publishing me.
Well, I'd love you to tell our viewers a little bit about you before we get into the gist of your article.
Sure. I call myself a spiritual life coach. I've been doing this for about a year, and basically I help women, find the space in their lives and in their brains for those, things that are most important to them. That's really it. That could be writing a book. It could be some self-development project, a new job, but starting a business, anything that's really important to them. I like to
Okay.
help with.
And so this article is actually an essay, and I saw it on Facebook. You'd posted on Facebook, and I got in touch and said, maybe we use this in the magazine. So it's a little different there, even though it's an essay, but it's an essay with depth, I believe, and some really good points in it. And it's called The Petals Will Fall, Letting Go in Order to Live and Create. So what was your inspiration for writing this?
Well, sort of like inspiration for me is sort of like looking out the window.
Mhm.
And so, uh, looking out the window, I see flowers, and my husband loves the garden. So in the spring, like right now, there's all these amazing flowers, and so I take a lot of inspiration from nature and just thinking about the cycles of life. So these beautiful flowers, these irises, um, and how brief their life is, but it's like not the whole story. This is sort of where I was going.
Yeah. And, I just had a thought as you were speaking that, when the petals fall off of my flowers in my garden, I kind of go, oh, but the flowers aren't mourning. They're not grieving their loss, are they? That's a human thing. So you start out by talking about like comparing this idea of flowers, like almost like releasing their petals, letting go of their petals. You compare that to how we as humans um, either do or don't let go of things easily. Say more about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, flowers, anything in nature, leaves off trees. I mean, it's just what they do, and it's just part of the cycle. And I think sometimes as humans, that letting go process, letting go of old ways, letting go of people, letting go of jobs, whatever it is that is just no longer a fit or we're outgrowing. I think as humans, like we tend not to want to let go because it's familiar. And I think we get ourselves in a little bit of stagnation if we don't, because we're like getting out of that flow.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we grow. We let go of things and
Yeah, because if the flower didn't lose their petals, they would have no space for the new petals to come in, right? Or like if my hosta didn't kind of like die out in the winter, it would not be able to come back up again next year, be pushing through the old stuff, right? And so I think it's a great metaphor for how we do life.
and the flowers, like on, you think of fruit trees. I mean, the fruit has to come afterwards.
Yes.
You're not going to get.
Yeah. So you said you think we resist that because it's familiar. And are there any other fears you think we have around letting go of things that and sometimes we think it matters. We're having a hard time letting go, and sometimes it doesn't matter at all, but we still have a hard time letting go. What do you think that's all about?
Well, for me, it's like the fear of uncertainty. Well,
Mm,
what's next? Like, it's and it could be a good thing that's next, but I'm still sometimes, what is that really going to look like?
yeah.
Um, and sometimes I think the fear can be of it. We know it's probably going to be good, but maybe we have fear of success even. That's a thing with
Mhm.
people. So I think it's just probably really a fear of the uncertainty of what's next.
Yeah. Sometimes it's at least this may not be working for me. It may be something I really like, but at least I know it and it's familiar, even though that can be quite destructive. So it takes some work. It takes some contemplation, some inner knowing to actually start to be more comfortable with letting go, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think that we're, we say we're creatures of habit.
Hmm.
Our, neuroscience, our brain likes conserve energy. It's our whole system really seems to be built to conserve energy. So anything new takes more work. So I think that's also part of the block, not just fear, but maybe it's just the way humans are built. And so that next thing is, and we can think about it. We contemplate, well, what's that going to be like? Or whereas a flower happens.
They trust.
Yeah.
The flower trust. We're making up stories about what we think might happen or could happen or will happen. And in my experience, the stories, I'm usually not that great of making up stories that happen, but I can go into real deep spirals about things I think might happen. And so you spark a lot of thoughts for me with just this one, what's a very simple metaphor that, this whole idea that we fear some things, but also I just had a thought as you were talking that, it could be something as I remember thinking, oh God, I don't want to get a divorce. I don't want to date again. In that sort of like, dating, like, should that be what I'm thinking about when I'm making a decision about whether or not to leave my marriage? Probably not, but I think it's also easier. It's a way to escape what's really going on and a great excuse, right? Yeah, because we make up stuff just to, I guess, be okay with it.
Yeah, I think we do. It's just human. And I think
That
it's just human. We're
it
just being
is.
human.
It is.
And I think there's nothing like really wrong
Hmm.
with that. It's just what we do. I think it's just awareness that we bring to it so we don't um, stagnate our growth. It's just that awareness is helpful.
Yeah, we find ourselves kind of doing the same thing, as they say, and getting the same results and not really being pleased with our results. We might want to start to look at that. I know you work with clients on this, I'm sure. So how would you work with a client that it's been clear to you that they're holding on to something that you think will probably help them if they were able to start to at least look at releasing it? How would you start with someone? What I'm really asking is for you to give some advice to our viewers here about how to maybe start that process.
Well, I think oh, for client that it's about change. And whether or not you can actually allow change to happen in your life, again, like because of all those fears. But what I would try to do, someone who was, they come to me wanting to change,
Hmm.
but what I'm finding,
Intellectually, right?
yeah, what I'm finding is like on the ground doing the work is there's a lot of blocks, and often it's stuff like confidence or fear of the unknown, and so I feel like my role is to like just deeply listen, and if anyone out there, whether you have a coach or not, if you have someone you can talk to, because I really think talking about it is like the beginning of releasing.
Yeah.
And so if you can speak your truth, and you can just sort of, even if you have to rant and all of those things, you get all of that out. And journaling helps too. Tell people to journal it out. Just
Mhm.
some way of beginning the letting go process. Um, and then it's um, and then it's just doing the thing. Like, you get kind of stuck in this. If you can overthink it, start taking the next steps. That okay, I'm letting go of this thing. What's next? Sometimes you just have to, even if you don't know what's next, taking that first step, you start to see more. Then you can take another step. Um, but just movement. Like after you
Mhm.
kind of release by speaking or writing, and then just being able to get yourself to just take one step, whether you know exactly what you're doing.
Right. And we really usually don't know exactly what we're doing. It's been my experience, at least for me. And so the first step then is to really just notice when something's repeating itself, maybe, or when you find yourself in the same situation, or when you find yourself maybe sad about the same things. And know that I mean, it's so obvious sometimes when we are holding on like to dead relationships or holding on to a way of being in the world that we're familiar with, but we know it isn't working for us. So the first step is just to not acknowledge it, to notice it, and then to start to be curious, I guess, about, that sort of gentle curiosity about, wonder what's going on here, and start to maybe write or think or talk to a friend or talk to a coach, or just to try to start to get some order to it, I guess. Does that sound right?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think, yeah, because I think, we're in that kind of holding on place. It's really tight,
Mm-hmm.
feels tight. And so anything you can do to start loosen that up, I think
Yeah.
is
I
helpful.
liken it to sometimes being in a box or a container or something. And you might have even said this at a meeting one time. I don't know, but it's like this is all we can see is what's right here in front of us because everything else is so close. We can't see outside of that. And our mind isn't always going to support us with that until it knows different, you know. So let's see. I wanted to go to this next piece. I think what I'd like to ask you now is, I know back when I was teaching transformational seminars for another company, and I used some of this in my own workshops, is this whole idea we hear a lot about comfort zone. And I think a lot of times people, it's just, it's just a cliche. Nobody thinks about what it means. But anytime we're looking at being uncomfortable, we don't typically choose that the first go round. We don't typically say, oh, yeah, I'll take that. Thank you. It takes a while to get to that space. But what also happens sometimes, I think, is that sometimes people leap out of their comfort zone too fast and maybe let go before they're ready, or not just let go but get into something else to like replace what they just let go of. Do you agree with that, and do you want to say anything more about that?
I think so. I think um, for me, when I do that, like jump into, like I got into a lot of networking last year.
Hmm.
It was a lot, and I could tell that as an introvert and highly sensitive person, it was probably a bit much. I know it was a bit much
Hmm.
for my system. So that's kind of an example of like doing too much too soon, or jumping in too soon. I was trying to let go of fears of doing you know, networking and speaking. But jumping in too soon was it can slow the process down if you jump
Okay.
out of your comfort zone too fast. I think because then you want to retreat and you want to retreat harder than ever.
And not
So
do anything, right?
yeah,
That you're in the same, maybe even a different position, a less of a position than you were in before. You've kind of, yeah, doubled back. Yeah.
that so it's a balance. I think you have to like
Mhm.
just have to find what your pace is and do that. And this is also where you kind of get into, oh, I don't know if I really want to. That's too uncomfortable. Like, so you may have a hard time going. So I like to think of it as like expanding your comfort zone. There's
Mhm.
a book, and I wish I could remember her name right now, but she talks about, you know, in the culture we say like get out of your comfort zone. But I like the idea of expanding your comfort zone. So the new thing becomes a place where you're good and you're comfortable. And if it gets too comfortable, you expand again. But it isn't a harsh way of like, just get out of your comfort zone and
Right.
yeah,
No, I think expanding is absolutely the right word, because this is what I also have found is that as we expand our comfort zone, it really doesn't go back down. It stays in this field. Our behavior may change, and you may, like you retreated for a while, but you were still probably still more comfortable doing it. It was just that it wasn't the right thing for you to be doing.
yeah,
But so our comfort zone, it's kind of like when you blow up a balloon and let the air out, the balloon never goes back to its original shape. It's just kind of, you've expanded it and it stays. I don't know, that's not a great example. Never mind that one. But you know what I'm getting at. It's this, yeah, we can inch it up little by little. And then once we get comfortable in that little zone of playing, we can inch it up a little bit more. Otherwise, like I say, we'll leap out too fast and probably not do the things that are best for us at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a learning process.
It is. It all isn't it in life a learning process, right? What do you think about, or what do you find with people in the letting go process? Is there a grieving that needs to happen as well, even for things that we know aren't good for us, but we're going to turn them loose? Is there a grieving process we need to acknowledge as well and not skip over?
Yeah, I think so. I think yeah, I have a friend who had a lot of loss um in a short period, and she really struggled with grief. Um, but I can see now as she's coming out of it. I mean, grief was, I want to say it's like it's a, I mean, it's a teacher. It's, you know, you learn a lot from it. So like trying to just skip over it, I think first of all, you really can't, because then, you know, you push it down, you know, how it comes back up in weird ways or, you know, makes things worse. But I think watching her, I see she's learned so much about herself through it, and she's allowed herself. I mean, she struggled sometimes to let it be what it was, but she's grown
Hmm.
a lot through it. And I think it's just a necessary process for, I like to think of us all as like becoming.
It's
There's
what?
never as becoming. We're always becoming.
Yeah.
It's a like nature. It's just a process. There's
Mhm.
never an end to things. So she, you know, her becoming the next thing needed that process.
Mhm. I think that's such a beautiful way to put it. And it's so self-affirming and self-loving to look at it as becoming rather than I need to change that, or I need to stop doing that, or I need to let go of that. And you hear people say those harsh words to themselves quite often about the must do, have to, need to, rather than want to kind
Yeah.
of thing. And so I love that part of becoming because it really is. You're like stepping into something new
Mhm.
each moment, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there is no there to get to. Because if there is, I think we're done. You know, that's it. So
And I even say, as a spiritual life coach, I even say we're not done. Like if you believe there's something after, I have no idea.
right. Yeah.
But I think that that's even a part of the, and that's how I talked with my friend about it. Her loss,
Hmm.
seeing her parents and stuff, is it was they're on their journey to
Yeah.
keep becoming.
I mean, so many things in life are just hard for us to try to make sense out of because there is no sense to be made typically from a from this earthly plane, from this looking at it as just very right, wrong, good, bad, cut and dried. You have to look at it from a higher level, I think is what you're saying. Yeah. Well, Joanne, what else do you want to say about this sort of lovely metaphor of using the flower to illustrate letting go and the benefits of being able to let go?
I guess one thing that comes to mind right now is just like the beauty of the flower. I mean, it's brief, um, but that briefness of like everything's impermanent, but the briefness of it is so, just brings us into the moment, into the here and now, to be really present with life. And so even know that, and maybe even helps us like be really present. Like you said earlier, something about we want to just ignore that. We don't want to really acknowledge the change that needs to happen. So just being present.
I'm thinking about that. I don't know if this is what you mean or not, but we have a rhododendron bush in our front yard that was here when we moved here 31 years ago. And last year it was looking like we were losing it. And we cut it all back and we did some things trying to save it. And not a lot because we don't know a lot about that, but it came back this year and it had probably close to 30 big blooms on it. It's a big, gorgeous, like deep magenta color. And it's right outside the big window. As I walk through the living room, I see it every time. And I know the flowers on those bushes last for about 3 minutes. I mean, really, maybe 3 to 4 days before they start to look a little raggedy. And I found myself just standing in the window and looking at the flower, knowing it wasn't going to be there, grateful for the fact that it had bloomed again, but I'd never thought of it as the flower was helping me to be present. So thank you for that. That's really, and we can do that with everything.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
in nature, especially, we can do that with everything in nature because all of nature is impermanent,
Mhm.
as are
Mhm.
we. So because we are nature. So I love that. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Joanne, tell us how our viewers can find out more about you and your work.
Well, they can follow me here on Facebook. This is Facebook's mainly where I'm at.
Okay.
I have other accounts, but I'm mostly all the writing and sharing of my work is on Facebook.
Okay.
Um, I have a website, but I don't really use it very much at this point. So, but yeah, follow me on Facebook.
Okay, that Facebook link for all of you who want to follow Joanne on Facebook is in the text of this video. So check out her work and check out her writing and be sure you read the essay in its entirety. It'll mean a lot more to you, I think it's in entirety than it did hear me just kind of taking little stabs at it here and there. I'd love for you to share a final thought with us from what we've talked about today.
And, well, as I was thinking about this interview, I came to me that letting go is a way of coming back to you. So releasing into your authentic self, kind of cover ourselves. We're supposed to be like this. So yeah, I think it's letting go is allowing ourselves to become who we really are.
Wow. And letting go of that old version that doesn't serve us or that people wanted us to be or any of those things. That's probably the highest form of letting go, would you think?
Yeah.
Starting to, once we can let go of that vision of ourselves, we can probably let go of other things much more easily, like letting go of resentment of other people and just, I mean, there's so many things to let go of. My goodness, we could have another conversation about this for days. But I really appreciate that. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your beautiful words with us. And I hope you'll write something and submit it to us again because you are a beautiful writer.
Thank you. I will. And thank you for this.
You're welcome. And I want to thank anyone watching this. Thank you for watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. For more information on the On Purpose Women Global Community or magazine, please click on the links in the text of this video and be sure to check out Joanne's Facebook page, as well as her email is also in there. Reach out to her. Do you do any kind of a preliminary, like free, I should have asked you this before I have you online, like coaching consult to see if somebody's a fit with you?
Yeah, yeah. If people,
Okay.
if they're interested, they can just let me know and say, hey, we'll set something up.
Okay, great, great. Thanks so much. And for more interviews with amazing women living their lives on purpose, check out our YouTube channel, which is also in the text of this video. Thanks again.